So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be talking you through sort of the concepts of making tax digital to start with. As Kay said, if you do have any questions, do pop them in the chat box. Some questions we simply don't know the answers to at this stage, but we'll try our best to answer them at the end of the presentation. So I thought we'd just start with giving you a quick overview of the history of this. Why is it all happening? What's happening? So making tax digital is not actually new. It has been in place for VAT for a number of years now. It sort of came in around 2019 and was mandated from 21 for those above the VAT threshold and 22 for everybody else who's doing VAT returns potentially voluntarily. So making tax digital is not necessarily a new concept. It's just that for the first time, it's going to be introduced for income tax. So where are we now? We are now looking at making tax digital for income tax self-assessment. So it's going to be introduced for landlords and sole traders, and we'll come on to a bit more of that in the next few slides. What we don't know quite yet is when it's going to come in for corporation tax. We're also not sure as to when it's going to come in for partnerships, trusts. These are to be announced in due course, but we do know it is coming. So in terms of timeline, it has been confirmed by HMRC that this making tax digital is going to start in April 2026. The reason we're talking about this today is because there is going to be a trial run that's starting in April. So there is going to be some possibility to voluntarily sign up for this a year early. The reasons would be, so during that year's period, there will be no penalties if things go wrong during that period. Whereas if you don't sign up until you actually are mandated and have to start in April 26, anything that goes wrong at that point, there is a possibility that penalties may arise. So we're encouraging people to think about signing up early just to get used to the systems, get used to any software that may be required and processes, just so that once it does go live, we then are more used to the system. We're then more familiar with keeping the records that are required. So that's roughly what the timeline looks like while we're talking to you now. Why are HMRC doing this and why are the government doing this? Well, they are of the opinion that making tax digital will help close what's called the tax gap. So the tax gap is the difference between what they believe they should be collecting in tax and what they are actually collecting in tax. They have said that there's some empirical evidence that following the introduction of making tax digital for VAT, that there was indeed a closing of the tax gap. The reason they're sort of looking at income tax first, and then we'll most likely look at partnerships and small companies next, is that in their evidence demonstrates that it is the smaller sole traders, the smaller landlords, the smaller companies whose records are perhaps considered not necessarily as accurate, and therefore they believe that's where the biggest tax gap is actually falling. So hence why they have targeted individuals first. I haven't seen their evidence, so I'm just can only repeat what they've told in courses and in information they've issued. So who is actually going to be impacted by this? So as I mentioned, landlords and sole traders with income over £50,000 will have to go into making tax digital from April next year. Now, just to confirm, if you are both a landlord and a sole trader, that is the combined total has to be over 50,000. So it's not 50,000 for rent and 50,000 for sole trader income. It's the combined total. If it's over 50,000, you'll be impacted by making tax digital. That 50,000 is going to be measured on your 24-25 tax return. So the tax year that's about to finish just now in April. So the idea being you'll do your 24-25 tax return. That will be filed as normal before January 2026. So at that point, you should know whether you're above the threshold or not, and therefore whether you're then going to be introduced into making tax digital straight away from April 26. Anyone who submits a tax return showing they are over those limits is supposed to receive a letter from HMRC in February, March time next year, informing them that you are indeed within making tax digital. That's not to say if you don't receive a letter, you're not inside it. But if you do receive a letter, it will mean they expect you to sign up for it. That limit then reduces from 2027 to £30,000. So on the 25-26 tax return that's due for filing by January 27, if your total income from rental and sole trader is over 30,000, you will be required to go into making tax digital. And just to confirm, that's turnover as opposed to profit. So it's your rental received and any income you receive as a sole trader. So what is actually making tax digital? Making tax digital is really about keeping digital records. So, sorry, just too quick there. So that's what it's really all about, is that they are trying to encourage people to have digital records. That essentially means that you should only ever enter a figure into a piece of software or a tax return once. You shouldn't be copying things from one place into another. It's got to be all digitally transferred along the path until it ends up in HMRC's hands. So what they're expecting under this is that every quarter, so starting from 6th of April 26, every quarter they will want an update on your digital records. They will want a submission which shows your turnover and your expenses for that quarter. Now, it can just be totals. It can just be a 3-line return, so turnover, expenses, profit for that quarter. They are not going to have full access to your digital record in every transaction. You're just asked to submit a total, and it will be prepared on a cash basis. There is no need to make any tax adjustments to those submissions. But it does mean that if you are both a sole trader and a landlord, that you will need to make 2 submissions every quarter. And indeed, if you have more than one sole trader, you'll need to submit an update for every sole tradership that you have. So that's what they're expecting, is every quarter. Those quarterly submissions, you have 1 month to submit them. But frankly, if you're keeping your records up to date as you go through, it really should just be a click of a button to actually prepare those returns. So the returns themselves shouldn't be too onerous. It's the record keeping where the extra effort will need to be added to this process. So as you go through each quarter, you're declaring, as I said, income and expenses. It's a cumulative effect. So first quarter, obviously, just put the first 3 months in. The second quarter, you're putting 6 months worth in. The third quarter, 9 months. The fourth quarter, 12 months. And then there's an end of year submission. So at the end, that's when you do your tax adjustments, any disallowables, any extra claims, that sort of thing. So the end of year submission is effectively your tax return. It would include anything outside of your rental and outside of your sole trader. So your bank interest, your employment income, your dividends, anything else you may have outside of the rental and sole trader income. But the end of year submission is not going to be the tax return as you know it today. So there is going to be end up with a certain chunk of the population who are going to submit these end of year submissions, and other people who are not affected by making tax digital who will continue to submit what we call SA 100 personal tax returns. So this will have a fundamental effect as to what you are going to be required to submit to HMRC every year. So that's why we just wanted to make sure you became aware of this. It's going to be a seismic shift in what you are required to submit to HMRC every year going forward if you're caught by making tax digital. Now, just to sort of reiterate sort of the timeline here, we're providing this information to you today, so starting from February 25. As I mentioned, from the start of the next tax year in April 25, there's going to be a trial run. So HMRC are looking for volunteers they need to test their software. The software providers need to test their software. They're looking for volunteers to go through the system. During that period, there will be no penalties if things are submitted late. It will just be a trial run for everybody. So it's worth thinking about whether you want to sign up for that, and we'll provide some more details about how we can help with that as well towards the end. And as I say, in March 26, you should expect a letter from HMRC telling you that you will be in making tax digital or not. They have actually announced, I just saw this morning, in fact, something come out on the wires, that they will start to send taxpayers letters from this April for anyone on their 23-24 tax returns who are over the 50,000 limit as well, just to sort of as a pre-warning. There won't be an obligation to sign up for MTD if you get this letter, but just to make people aware that from this period of time, so this April onwards, you will be getting letters if your total rental plus sole trade income is over £50,000. So during the trial run, you'll have essentially a month to submit the quarterly updates each after the end of each quarter. During the actual submission phase, so once we get into 2026-27, they'll actually give you to the 7th of the month. So because of our funny tax year we have in the UK, during the trial run, each quarter will run from 6th of April to 5th of July, 6th of July to 5th of October, etc. You'll then have until the 5th of the following month. So the first quarter will be 6th of April, 5th of July. You'll have until the 5th of August 25 to submit the first quarter. But when it all goes live, they've changed the 5th to the 7th. So 7th of August 2026 will then be the first quarter goes in, to align it with the VAT filing deadline as well. Now, in terms of actual tax payments, that doesn't change at this stage, I should highlight. So the normal 31st July, 31st of January payments on account with a final 31st January tax payment will continue. We have heard unofficially from HMRC that it's clearly going to be beneficial for them for cash flow reasons for the government, if they move to quarterly taxes along with the filing at some point. There's no official announcements on that, but you can see that happening in the next 10 years or so, that they will move to quarterly tax payments. That seems to be the path of travel in that respect. So just to summarize all that for you. So we're looking for voluntary testing in 25-26. There will be at least 4 return submissions required, what they're calling quarterly updates. They're not returns in as much as they're just providing very limited information. And then a final submission before the 31st January as normal. During the phase, there's no penalties, but you do need to register beforehand. You won't be able to join partway through the year, so you need to make that decision now, whether you want to join the trial run or not. As I mentioned, there are HMRC letters coming out. So for those who went over 50,000 in 23-24, HMRC, they've actually announced rather than February, March, that they've delayed it. It will come out from April onwards rather than March 26. And then again, next year, you'll get a further letter. So how do we solve this problem? The real answer is we're probably going to need some sort of compatible software. So at this point, I'll hand over to Katie to talk you through some of those options.
Lovely, thanks very much, Tim. So I'm Katie and I'm the partner for bookkeeping and payroll based in Woburn, and I specialise in the outsourcing and cloud technologies. So I'm always looking at these softwares to find ways that we can best streamline your day-to-day accounting workflows. So we're going to start off this section here now with a quick poll, just to see how many of you on the call today have started to make plans for MTD. So if you could just see that pop up on your screen now and let me know, that'd be great. And the answer is... Okay, so we've got 33% software, 33% spreadsheets, and lots of paper receipts is 33. So we're quite even spread there. So hopefully for those of you that have already got software, that's great, and music to our ears. We just probably need to make sure that they're compatible. For those of you that have Excel, we've obviously got some tips coming up for you to help streamline your processes. And for those of you that haven't started yet to make any plans, this is obviously the start of your MTD journey, so we can start getting into this now. So the main thing to point out is that we're obviously here to support you. and we can have as much as little input as you'd like with this. So obviously for some of you that will be planning to enter the data yourselves into the software, that's absolutely fine and can remain the same. And we can obviously help you decide on the software that is compatible on the MTD and that's going to be most suitable for you and your business. So we can obviously help you with that. Now, when it comes to the quarterly filings, if you're completing the bookkeeping yourself and putting all the data into the software, we're adding on a service for quarterly check and filing services. So with this, it would be a case of you put everything in, and then one of the bookkeeping team would log into your software, go and check all the bank reconciliations and stuff like that. And then we would confirm with this ready for filing through to the HMRC. So it might be something that you kind of feel that you'd want for like the first 6 months, or you might feel more comfortable having it all the time, just have that data checked before the final submission goes across. So that's something that we've got for you guys. And then we also go as far as the full bookkeeping support. So if you're short on time, or you think that you're not going to kind of get on with these new softwares that are going to be in play, then obviously we've got the bookkeeping team there that can support you. And you just need to provide all your bank statements, all your invoices, all your receipts. And then the team would go in and prepare the bookkeeping data, and then obviously do the submission for you to the HMRC. So, and when it comes to the full bookkeeping support, again, this part is also bespoke. So it's one where you might feel that actually you want to put in your sales, and you might just want help for someone to manage the purchase ledger side, so, and the bank reconciliation. So it's completely bespoke to what suits you and what time you've got for your administration on the day-to-day accounting. So we're happy to talk you through on them options. So on the software, obviously we've been working with the software, as Tim said. MTD is not new. We've gone through this process with the MTD for VAT. So we know the softwares well. We've been speaking with each of them just to check their offerings based around the MTD. So a lot of the softwares do have a lower subscription for their monthly fees for the MTD compliance software, and this is on a cash basis. So the main ones, the top picks that we've got would be Xero, Sage and QuickBooks. And then for landlords, we do have a software called Hammock, and it's very good. It's very easy to use, like user friendly. So it's definitely one to check out if you're a landlord and have landlord income. Now, working with the software companies, they have all said that they are going to be putting out workshops for everyone to sort of join and see. Now, if you're doing your bookkeeping yourself, I would say that it would probably be worthwhile you going to join these demos, which we can obviously organise for you, because from an accountant's perspective, it doesn't matter really which software you go for, but if you're doing the work yourselves, it could be a case of it's which one you have a preference for the interface. So it's definitely worth looking at each of those just to see which one works best for you. Now, we've got some practical tips and potential pitfalls as you go into this transition into MTD. So a couple of tips just to try and make it as painless as possible. So we would recommend separating your business banking from personal. So hopefully this is something you've got in place already, but if not, the reason for why we're saying this is because where I mentioned on the softwares, they are based on a cash basis. So this means that you can import the bank feed from your bank statement. Now, if you have it separate, you know that everything you're dealing with is going to be for the business. You're going to make life a lot easier for yourself with that. Otherwise, you'd have to sift through, if it's mixed in with personal spends, you're going to have to sift through to pull out what's business, what's personal. So I think that would be quite a good step if you haven't already got that in place already. The next tip that I would say is the receipt scanning tools that we have available. So this would be very good for, I mean, it's good for everyone, but I think for anyone that's even currently using Excel, this would be a great first step to just explore the scanning tools. because it saves a lot of data entry that you're doing already into a spreadsheet. So it will, and you'll see how it will push through automatically to the system. So it's definitely one to look at. What's good with the receipt tools is it's an app on your phone. You can have it in your pocket. You can start getting yourself into that habit of scanning these receipts as you go. You can push emails across with invoices that come in on email, and it keeps everything in the cloud. So it's sort of there ready for when you plan to sit down and work on it, if you're doing the books yourself. And if you're going to be having support from a bookkeeping team, then it would leave those documents in the cloud, so they are ready and waiting for, say, if they were going to pick it up from the 10th of the month, so they've still got a good few weeks there of being able to process and prepare your reports ahead of deadline. So it just keeps the information flowing live. So I definitely recommend looking at the scanning tool. And then the third pointer that would give is to check your HMRC gateway login. So the gateway logins, you should have one where you can access your self-assessment. If you haven't got one set up already, because it's always been done through the agents, you need to get this set up on the government website. And then if you have got one, just go in, check your username, check your password works, and obviously check your second authenticator code and where it's going. They usually get a text to a mobile phone. You could have an old number on there if you've had an agent doing your self-assessment. So I'd say definitely get that looked at, make sure you can definitely access, because as and when the MTD comes round, even if you're doing your own quarterly filings, if you're having the annual accounts, the annual filing done by the accountants, you'll need to authorise us as agents. So you're going to need that login at some point. So best to sort of get ahead of the game and just check yourself on that one. Right, so what to do and when. Obviously, some of you have already started taking those steps with the software, but we sort of are advising everyone that now's the time to do it. We obviously have a deadline of April 26 is when you have to go in, but we're trying to encourage our clients to start looking at the software, moving to the digital softwares from April this year. Obviously, Tim mentioned that you can voluntarily join the scheme early if you wanted, but even if you aren't intending to do that and you are going to wait to April 26, definitely look at the software. I think that through looking at it, you'll probably find that you're going to save yourselves a bit of time, particularly with the receipt scanning. So we're saying try it from April. It gives you a good year then to get yourself into the habit of doing this. If you've been previously uploading or sending your documents annually, you now need to start getting to that month as a minimum of quarterly. So it would be a good time to start doing it straight away, and I wouldn't really delay it. In terms of the software setup, we can get this set up. You can give yourself time then to actually choose which software is best for you. Get your bank feed connected, because that's going to make life a lot easier when it comes to actually preparing your data. And of course, so decide on the support level that you need. So have you got time to do this? This is going to be a quarterly requirement from you. Have you got time to do that, or do you need some support? Obviously, we're here to help you with that, so that's no problem at all. And then I think the final tip would probably be to just start getting yourself into that habit and allowing yourself some time to do your administration, because I mean, I know we're a year away now, but as you're doing this every quarter, it comes around quick. So it's probably best to try and get into the habit of setting some time aside to get your paperwork in order each month by like the 10th of the month or something like that. So you're allowing yourself time to actually complete the submissions. So the next part is we're going to do another quick poll for you, and this is on the back of from speaking with the software providers. They've said to us that they would be happy to do webinars and workshops. So we're just trying to get a feel here for whether you would prefer online. Oh, it's online. Oh, online, 100% online. There you go. No one wants to come and see us in the office. Never mind. So we're going to start looking at these and see how we can put something together to support you best in terms of looking at the different demonstrations of the software, getting these tools set up so you've got everything that you need and the support in place to do it and to keep you compliant with MTD. So it's not a million miles away. I think this next 12 months will come around pretty quickly. So if you need any support at all, or if there's any questions following this, please let us know and we'll do our best to answer.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much, Katie. I don't have any questions in the chat, which clearly means that you've answered everybody's questions this morning. If anybody does have any questions afterwards, please do, as I said earlier, drop us a line at hello@rpgcc.co.uk and we will come back to you. We will make this recording and the slides available on our website later today. Unless anybody else, Katie, Tim, has anything else to add, do just let us know. Katie, Tim?
No, nothing from my side.
No, nothing from me.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon, and I wish you a lovely rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.